Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of Compassion and Courage, Conversations in Healthcare. I'm your host, Marcus Engel. This is the podcast where we teach compassionate communication, provide perspective, and inspire resilience. And we're going to talk about all those things today with my guest, who is Nicole Brackett, RN. Nicole, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Marcus. I'm excited to be here.
So I read over your bio, and I know that you've got 34 years of nursing in, and that you're an Army veteran. Did you do your nursing program through the military?
Yes, I did. I enrolled in the Army, did the basic training like everybody does, and I did my education at Fort Sam Houston, Texas, and I did all my nursing education through them, and then I served during Operation Desert Storm, so I am also a veteran.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your service, and not just your service in the military, but your service to humanity as a nurse.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm excited to get to talk to you today because first of all, I love nurses, as you probably know, and I love the stories that nurses bring to the table. And you also have an expertise in an area that I want to get into, but I kind of first want to go back to just what you said. You were nursing during wartime, yes?
Yes.
I can only imagine what that experience must have been like, but I assume you learn a lot in a short amount of time in wartime nursing.
Yeah, I was towards the end of my Army career at the time and was in my reserve unit, and they got activated because of that. And I was set to go overseas, and I was all packed and ready to go. And that Monday morning, they said they were not sending any more people overseas, but that we were going to set up the hospital here in Colorado. At the time, it was Fitzsimmons Army Medical Center. And all of a sudden you become very patriotic, and the fear of having to face wartime kind of goes out the window, and you're just concerned with putting your skills into use. And so it's just a different mindset and an honor to have been able to serve.
And so, gosh, that's been how many years ago now? Early 2000s, right?
Late 1990s.
Late 90s. Okay, gotcha. Gosh,
Yeah.
I'm getting old. Time goes by, right? So you went from military nursing into long-term care. Is that correct? After your military career?
Yep, absolutely. It's where my career path has taken me, mostly long-term care.
Tell me a little bit more about that. Why were you attracted to long-term care in the beginning?
Well, becoming a nurse, I decided that I wanted to explore different avenues, but the immediate availability for nurses, was in the long-term care arena. And so I worked for a nursing agency for many years before I got hired on at a long-term care facility that had skilled nursing, independent living, and assisted living. And I worked up in Boulder, Colorado for 12 years of my career. And then I was introduced by a fellow nurse friend of mine to our founder of Homewatch CareGivers, Paul Sauer. And he wanted me to put together a training program for his caregivers. And so I launched our very first online training program to educate our caregivers in the home care space. And you start falling in love with when you find your niche. And I did. Having helped take care of my grandmother and my mom, who is aging now, the compassion and the understanding for people who are aging has just been something that's been always close and near and dear to my heart. I worked hospital for a while, but it just wasn't where my passion was.
My oldest daughter is a nurse and started out as a CNA in long-term care and is absolutely in love with long-term care. She's working in ED right now, but long-term care is like one of the places where her heart longs to be. And it takes a special person to, I shouldn't say it takes a special person. It takes hearing the calling to long-term care. And it sounds like you got that in droves. Now, did you start out skilled nursing in long-term care?
I started out in yeah, skilled nursing. Like you do different levels of long-term care, and there's a skilled component to it. Um, I'm thinking back on what you said about your daughter. I used to teach CNA classes for Colorado, and surprisingly, it is a stepping stone and a career path for so many to become, a certified nurse aide and then go on up to into nursing services. So I think CNAs make really compassionate nurses because they're doing the hands-on component of caring for an elder, whether it's in their home or in a facility.
And a major shout out to all those nurses who were CNAs first and know how to treat CNAs because of their own time as a CNA.
100%.
Yeah. So I assume that work then brought you into the passion that we're really going to talk about today, which is aging and dementia care, right? And aging in place, and what are the options? So tell me a little bit about your organization and how you got started. What was the founding idea of everything?
Yeah. So um, I started 22 years ago, and primary focus was on caregiver education and then helping to support our franchise owners across the network in care delivery, person centered approach to care delivery, quality care, and making sure that they were hiring compassionate and reliable caregivers because you can teach skill set, but you can't teach compassion and reliability to individuals. And so looking for those character traits really helps lead to retention within the organization. We were very much focused on your core companionship, personal care components, hands on, hands off care. While over my 22-year with the company, we have expanded our service line to really start with people who are solo aging, very independent, very active, and moving it all the way through specialized care for those people who are aging in place and meeting their evolving needs where they are, no matter what chronic condition they're living with. um, 10 years ago, I had the privilege to work with Dr. Al Power, a renowned author and geriatrician and a dementia care expert, and him and I co created our certified dementia care program. What we know and what I've understood working with the company as long as I have is 65% of our clients will come to us living with some sort of cognitive decline, or they'll get it over time. And I think there's a stigma around aging, there's a stigma around dementia, and we busted through those stigmas and provided approach to care that was really more person centered. And knowing that somebody can age in place in their home from being very independent all the way through the journey of their care with the right company, with the right people in place, and with that right approach to care. So, our certified dementia care program is all that holistic approach in um, addressing people and meeting them where they are. I think a lot of times people like to stigmatize dementia and call it a behavior that somebody's having, while their reaction and their expression is something that we would react to the same way if the same thing were to happen to us. They're just unable to communicate that need. And so we seek to understand why this is occurring so that we can meet them where they are and make them feel safe and secure.
So give me like a real world example of somebody that you've worked with, or a person that has, I guess, was aging at home, and you said then 65% of, do you call them patients or clients or
Well,
customers, or what do you
for
refer to?
the home care industry, they're really referred to as clients.
Clients. Okay.
We like to take that even down further to be more person centered. They're individuals accepting support. We don't want to label somebody by their inability to provide care for themselves. So, it's that interdependent relationship. So we call them individuals. You'll hear us on our website and everybody refer to them as clients. But yeah, they're not patients because they're not receiving that skilled component of care, albeit we have added that nursing component service line last year. And so we're kind of like your one stop shop, if you will. Um,
Individuals seeking support, was it?
Accepting support.
Accepting support. I love that. I love that. Individuals accepting support. So again, like with a real world example, do you have some stories of people who have done this where you've seen it done in a really successful way? And
I think for me, the earlier somebody can set up care solutions, looking into the future of what their care needs might be, are more successful to be able to age at home successfully. I think too oftentimes we find somebody seeking help when it's a 911 call. They've already advanced in their chronic condition to the point where the family caregiver just doesn't know what to do. They don't have any resources and they don't understand what their options are. So I feel like even in that part of somebody's journey, getting a care company like Homewatch Caregivers involved can help mitigate some of that stress. And our professionally developed tools and our technical vertical of our service line allows those family members that peace of mind to know that they've engaged somebody who can meet their loved one where they are and actually see them sustain where they are, and sometimes, most oftentimes, improving with the right amount of care in place. Um, People don't thrive in environments that are not their own. And when you pull somebody living with dementia out of their secured, familiar environment, that their isolation, loneliness, and their reaction to the environment around them is compromised. And so I feel like when somebody gets put into a facility or a community living environment where they're not familiar with anything around them, there's going to be an adjustment period, and sometimes that adjustment period doesn't even happen.
it's something I'd not really thought of that you said that people do not do well when taken out of their environment, or they tend to not do as well when taken out of their environment. And I guess that makes all the sense in the world with dementia, right? You take away somebody's their bedroom, their bed, their their clothing, their usual routine, their food, their TV, their usual shows, and it's no wonder why people might have a decline in, would you even say, decline in cognitive ability if taken out of their.
Absolutely. I think there's cognitive abilities and isolation have a direct link when you think of them not being able to stay stimulated. When Marcus, when you said taken out of their environment, I like to use kind of a little bit of an analogy. You can be out of town, walk into a hotel room, and there's a phone, there's a bed, sometimes a microwave, a coffee machine, a lamp, a TV, but it's not home. And I like to always coach that even a person's home, if not carefully taken care of, can start to emulate an institution. So we want to make sure that we don't bring the institutional model of care into the home. We want to keep that home environment what it is actually intended to be, and that is something familiar, safe, a routine that's established and governed by the person who owns the home.
Autonomy, right? Whenever
Absolutely.
whenever we usually think somebody is diagnosed with dementia and we take away their rights, or maybe not their rights, we take away their abilities and responsibilities and such like that. And this kind of seems to be the opposite, that we're empowering people, and gosh, they're just going to do better,
Yeah,
right? They're just going to
absolutely.
do better.
And
Makes all the sense in the world.
I love that you said autonomy. And when we think about strengthening somebody's wellness, it's not the physical wellness only, it's their overall sense of well-being, which includes strengthening their autonomy, recognizing and preserving their identity, making sure that they stay connected in community, um, bringing the things that bring them meaning and joy, knowing what they are, and incorporating that into a plan of care so that we're not just such a task-driven organization. People want to have that social engagement included in their plan of care. If we don't think about the softer side of care and how we can provide that, then it becomes very institutional and task oriented. So I love that you said autonomy. There's so many domains of well-being that are important for us to, as a home care industry, to honor and strengthen for that individual.
Yeah, and so this is just making me think of it's a compassionate response to a human being suffering. This is the same thing I get to teach to my pre-meds at Notre Dame, and what I teach to my audience is we witness suffering, we're moved by it, we have a desire to ease it, and then we actually do something. That's a 4-part definition that we use for compassion. And so I'm thinking about this as such a compassionate response to something that is as traumatic to deal with as dementia. So that brings up the story then, which is always my students' first reflection paper of the semester. And I shared this with you before the podcast that I always ask for a story about a time that someone was there for you or that you were there for another to highlight compassion. And so, were any stories brought up professionally or personally for you with that prompt?
Yeah, I think for me, when I thought about that, I thought back to a time where my sister-in-law and my father-in-law, melanoma runs through that side of the family. The very large, close knit family, and devastating diagnosis, and so far along that it wasn't something that was treatable for either one of those folks. And me being the nurse in the family, people wanted to lean on me to help understand some of the medical jargon, some of their options, make sure that, I could help correlate the messaging coming from the medical community and threading it through the family to help them understand what was going on and to help walk them through that journey. It took a lot of compassion and a lot of communication and understanding on my part to make sure that they felt safe and that they felt informed every step of the way. It's been years since both of them have passed, but I still get the gratitude from the family whenever we're together, or when they think of a time that something happened, they're like, thank God Nicole was there to help navigate us through this difficult time. And it just came, I think you're embedded as a nurse to be able to give, but it was an honor. It was one of my honors of being a part of that family, is making sure that they didn't feel scared and that um, they were they were secure as a family unit, knowing that they had me to rely on. So a lot of emotional strain at the time, but it was very rewarding as well to help guide the family through that.
As a nurse, you're the de facto person that everybody comes to okay, what did the doctor say? What did this mean? So
Yeah. I
I'm
like to
sorry to
make the
hear about your
joke of,
losses.
thank you for that. I like to make the joke that you can leave your copayment on the table on your way out.
And so let's go back to something you just said. You said nurses give, which
Mhm.
I find to be the case. Even in situations like what you just described there, where you're the sandwich generation, you're taking care of parents, maybe taking care of kids and a significant other at the same time. Um, what do you do personally? And then I guess what do you encourage your caregivers to do to take care of themselves so that they don't get compassion fatigue, so that they don't get burnt out in this work?
Yeah, it's a great question, Marcus, and it's a real thing out there. Um, I think staying physically fit, whatever that level of activity looks like for the individual, is it just it has so many benefits. Activity has so many benefits to health and mental health. All of that gives you that stigma to keep driving forward. Knowing when you're stretched too thin is important. I think as caregivers in the healthcare industry, we give to the point where we don't recognize that we're wearing ourselves out. And I think understanding those things that bring you meaning and joy, and then just carving out the time to make sure you take that time for yourself, and knowing when to say uncle, knowing when to say, I need a break. or I need a resource, and it's okay to back off so you can regenerate and be able to give more. If you don't recognize that, then then you start to end on the other end of the spectrum where you don't like what you do anymore. And so recognizing self-care is very important. For me, it's a good beach vacation.
Mhm.
I haven't been to the beach in a long time, and the hurricanes that hit Florida annihilated the little cottage that I stay at, and they rebuilt. And actually, Marcus, this morning I just got off the phone with the owner of the cottage, and I have my beach vacation set up, and it's just
Awesome.
something where I go and rejuvenate and take care of myself.
Do you care to share your secret location?
Oh yeah, it's Madeira Beach,
Madeira? Yeah,
and I
beautiful.
call it my dear beach, Madeira.
Love it. Love it. And I hear you can find lots of shark teeth there too. Apparently,
They
that's a
have a
big
lot of good
thing.
things there.
Well, good. So staying physically active, knowing when you're getting thin, right?
Mhm.
Thin emotionally, and then we said it without saying it, but knowing how to refill that cup, knowing what works for you, what is going to be something that uh, re, what's the word I'm looking for? Rejuvenates your soul.
Yeah.
Because it is so important that we stay compassionate to those patients in the bed, those clients in their home, aging in place. What about your staff that are helping out with clients in their home? Um, what do you encourage them to do? Whether it's for the the client themselves or for the caregiver themselves, what do we encourage how to have those two people have a good working relationship?
Well, I love the question. I think for me, it's making sure that that caregiver is not task oriented or task focused. The reason why the phone rings is generally because the individual needs assistance with activities of daily living. And if you focus just on those things that they need help with, then you lose that softer side of care. Our care plan development includes the social history of the individual, the things that bring them meaning and joy, and that comes over to the plan of care for the caregiver to look at and to understand what they need to incorporate in their day to address those social engagement activities. It's very important. Some people come um, from an institutional model into the home care industry where they had to do 10 baths before breakfast and 10 baths after breakfast, and they become very task focused. So we actually, I think of the care plan as being a recipe for good care. And if you make that care plan more robust so that caregiver has complete instruction on what they can do and permission to incorporate that social part of care, and I think that leads to retention as well, because caregivers are given permission to have fun with their client, and the
Mhm.
likes and hobbies and the interests, if you can match that together with the client and the caregiver, that even makes for a stronger care partnership. And you want to have that skilled caregiver. You want them to feel safe that they have the skills that they need to be able to perform in the home. Providing home care is a very remote job, whereas institutional living, they have the support from internal team around them. So you want caregivers to be confident in their skill set, but you also want them to be that compassionate person that adheres to that social engagement with their client. And when you make that happen, when the magic happens and they're a good fit, that caregiver essentially kind of becomes an extended member of the family.
I was just reading a Facebook post yesterday from a therapist, um, uh, and she was talking about how she had just lost a patient or a client that had been with her for several years,
Mhm.
and how much of an impact that loss was having on her.
Mhm.
Even though she's a professional, this is her job, but it's more than a job, right? This is being human. This is being human. Whenever I hear you talking about matching up, um, caregivers with the interests of the individuals and taking that social history, taking the person as a whole. That's really good. That's really great stuff. Where can people learn more about what you do?
Well, obviously our website,
Mm-hmm.
it's www.homewatchcaregivers.com. They can learn more about it there. Find an office that's near them by putting in their zip code and just really reaching out and connecting. I all of our offices. We just got back from our indoor brand conference with the Authority brands. Homewatch Caregivers is a brand under the Authority brands. And it's amazing to see so many like minded people under one roof who are compassionate, who hire compassion. We were able to award our Caregiver of the Year. And, we all have the same core values, the same mission to provide that excellent care for individuals wanting to age. I also feel like we're at the forefront of our industry. We have implemented tools, tech, and the use of AI and predictive analytics to make sure that we can anticipate where the person is functionality wise to keep them from having a fall or a spill and having that catastrophic event that would take them away from the home. I'll just take a moment, if you don't mind, to
No,
talk
please.
about our core values. So,
Yeah.
our core values for Homewatch Caregivers is we have the passion to support people, and we support however and ever wherever we can, and that's a thing that rings true throughout our network. We lead with integrity. We speak through our actions, and we everybody in the organization has that we not I mentality, and we prioritize the greater good over the individual wins. We are very team focused. Your win is my win. Your success is my responsibility. Inspiring excellence. We strive for our best in every action and interaction that we do. And then finally, being authentic. We show up with honesty, consistency, and compassion. And those are our company core values. And throughout all of our locations from California to Florida, people live and breathe these values, and it shows in their business. It is representative of their marketing efforts. It shows on their website. It shows in how they hire and train and onboard caregivers. So it's really something that's kind of fascinating to be a part of for 22 years to see entrepreneurs take on this business because they want to be the provider of choice and the employer of choice, giving people jobs that they can grow in and be proud of.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. All right, kind of randomly for you. What's the coolest thing in your office?
The coolest or cruelest?
No, the coolest, the funnest, neatest. This is the thing that everybody comes in and goes, "Oh wow, that's awesome." What is that in your office?
Well, we're a pretty remote crew, but when we
Mhm.
get together, I think what's awesome is we come together as a family, and people are that we work with day to day, mostly like we see on Teams, like
Mhm.
through a virtual experience. When we come together in person, the energy is electric. I mean, we all get along so great, and we're so supportive of each other. And we call ourselves the franchise support center, not the corporate office, because we're truly vested in our franchise owners' success. And we've often had them comment on what a good core group of people we are at that level supporting them. So I think just being around a good group of people. Todd Houghton, our president, our brand president, has just brought that whole culture into Homewatch Caregivers, and he's as passionate a leader as anybody I've ever worked with. And it trickles down when you have somebody strong at the helm who does everything to make sure that the culture and the integrity of the organization is maintained. I think that's probably the coolest thing.
Awesome, awesome. All right, and my last question for you today is: if you had the world's largest billboard on the world's tallest mountain, what is the message that you would like to broadcast to humanity?
Oh boy. um, I guess for me, it would be seek to understand, strengthen overall sense of well-being, live every day, take care of yourself. Um, it's probably a lot of words, and my billboard's going to cost a lot of money. I always like to see a picture like you had mentioned on Facebook. You run through and you scroll through social media. I like to see the picture on Facebook where the younger person is looking into a mirror at an elder person, and just knowing that the people we take care of are people first, and they have a lifetime of um, of good examples to live by. I think there's so much missed with younger people and seniors, that it would be nice to have this billboard depict that relationship can still come back around, that young people can learn from old people and old people can learn from young people. And I can't believe I used the word old, because that's terrible. That's stigmatizing somebody. But yeah, seniors have a lot to offer and grow.
Sure.
Don't know if that exactly answered.
We could use AI to condense that down to fit on the billboard, but so much good content in there, and such good work that you're doing. Thank you for doing this work and helping people retain their dignity and their independence while they're aging in place, right? That's a beautiful thing. And we're going to send people to homewatchcaregivers.com. Any other locations that people can learn more?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So we have a partnership with a company or an organization, and they can go to daa.org or daanow.org. And we sit on the board of their Optimizing Wellbeing Committee, and they can download. We were contributors to their Pathways to Living Well with Dementia guide. And it's an awesome tool to be able to support families of those living with dementia, people that are living with dementia, very independent. It's over 400 pages long, but cover to cover, you wouldn't read it like that. It's actually what it says. It's a guide. So if they go to that, and they can get a lot of support and resources through that organization, and download the guide and use it to support them as they age in place. So I would definitely recommend that site for individuals who are living with dementia or who are caring for loved ones living with dementia.
Excellent. Nicole, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking to you. And listeners, thank you all for tuning in to this episode of Compassion and Courage, Conversations in Healthcare. Again, I'm your host, Marcus Engel. Please visit marcusengel.com for keynote speaking needs, healthcare consulting, books, coaching, yada, yada, yada. All right. Thank you so much, Nicole Brackett. And we'll see you all again next time on the next episode of Compassion and